Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the RamsTalkPodcast. It's another episode with the preview. It's a preview show, and today I'm joined by Singh from Cardiff City World to give us some of the gossip around Cardiff City and some insight into our opponents for the next fixture. So, Singh, thank you for coming on.
No worries at all. It'll probably be quite pleasant listening for your fans because it's not going very well.
Well, I mean, that perfectly leads us into what we're here to talk about, I guess. I think from sort of last season and how this season's gone so far, could you give us a quick sort of summary of Cardiff and what's going on for Cardiff City at the moment?
Yeah, so like last year was there was so much going on, like off the pitch and around the club, in the squad, and the manager had like a 1-year deal, so like he was going to be out of contract in the summer, so he couldn't address a lot of the issues within the squad. There was a few players, shall we say, not on board, and that was causing an issue. But he did a remarkable job of stabilizing things after we'd flirted with relegation the 2 seasons before, and kind of the season before last, we have really only stayed up because Reading got deducted points in the end. So last season was quite refreshing, especially the first part of the season. We were really good. We had some good results against some big teams. And then the second half of the season, it kind of really went, so you could see the signs of it going wrong. It didn't quite go wrong, but it wasn't pleasant viewing. But we were never in danger of relegation. So you kind of felt like, right, if he signs a new contract in the summer, he can get players in that he wants, because he kind of had mentioned that he wanted to evolve his system and he'd be a bit more progressive and attacking. So you were kind of like, right, okay. So he signed his new contract. First thing he did was he got rid of he excommunicated Ryan Wintle from the squad, who was one of the players who had kind of been a bit of an issue last year. One of the other players who had been an issue, he got right back on board, and like they're sort of well and truly, in real good form. But he brought in a lot of players, a lot of quality players. So going into the season and the pre-season games, but going into that first league game, Cardiff fans were the most positive I've seen in probably 15, 20 years since Dave Jones was there. That's how long it was. Even myself, who's notoriously pessimistic, I was genuinely quite looking forward to it, because I thought last season, particularly in that first half of the season, there were signs that he was capable of doing and playing some good football and getting results. So I thought, well, if he brings in players he wants and better players, it should naturally evolve, because obviously last season we also only had frees and loans because we had a transfer embargo as well. So this summer we've brought in some real quality players. So like, there's no excuse for him now. But yeah, it hasn't been a very good start. But he's kind of abandoned the shape and the setup that we had in pre-season that looked exciting and was a kind of evolution of the sort of tactics he played last year. And he's just reverted back to what it was last year. And I think that has been very frustrating for fans. And also, I don't think the club are massively happy with the start, obviously.
So obviously, I mean, the start to your season, you're winless so far in the Championship. If you could kind of sum the performances up in a few words from this season, how would you sum them up? Whether that be brutal or if you take a nicer approach to it.
So do you know what? It's weird, right? We've had there's only 4 games gone, isn't it? So like we've had a difficult start, because we had Sunderland, then Burnley, both of which will probably be up there to start at the end of the season, a South Wales derby, and Middlesbrough, who also will probably be round about the playoffs. So it has been tough. We lost 5-0 to Burnley, but if you ask Burnley fans, for the first 40 minutes, we were the better team by far. But during that sort of 40-minute period, we had a back pass back to the keeper, and the keeper's just let it bounce over his foot into the goal, which puts you 1-0 down. Then we hit the post off a 1v1 at 1-0. And kind of if you score, then you can kind of write off the mistake because you're playing well. But then we gave the ball away and they scored again before half time. And it was like the weirdest 5-0 you've ever seen, because Burnley didn't really dominate us. I think they had like 6 shots on goal on target, and they won 5-0. It was weird. We actually played all right in that game, but somehow lost 5-0. All of our goals in all the games have come from mistakes, bar 2, I think. It's either 1 or 2. All the rest have been from losing possession on the edge of our area, or, you know, like a keeper mistake or something like that. So, but it's been toothless, I think, is the best way to describe it. But he's making the wrong selections as well. So, yeah.
So sort of there's a lot left to be decided, but almost an unfortunate start, you might say.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm not naive. Like, you don't concede the amount of goals that we have and play well. But also, I just think sometimes football's so like instant gratification. We brought in, I think, 8 players, maybe even 9 in the summer. Like, it takes time for all them to sort of integrate into a squad. And also, half of them weren't fit to play when they came in, which was another kind of frustrating thing, because you ended up with pretty much the same team as last year for some of the games. But I think it'll come. I'm just not sure that Errol Bullitt will be the manager when it does, because the fact is, if we lose to you guys on the weekend, I'm not 100% sure he makes it through to the Leeds game. And even if he does make it through to that Leeds game, then it's a hard game and it's difficult because the pressure's on him. I'm one of the few who still thinks he might be able to get through it. But yeah, it's hard. It's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a difficult run, and I didn't realise until you told me there how difficult the start to your season had actually been. But sort of moving away from the poor performances, or the poor results rather, on a more positive spin, who would you say are the danger men, the men that Derby should be looking out for that are going to try and cause us the most problems this weekend?
Well, this is another issue, because all the players who I would probably name have been on the bench all season, and I think that has been a big issue. Like Ruben Colwell, 22-year-old Welshman, is an exceptional player. He's absolutely bossed the game in the EFL Cup game against Southampton, who had, you know, some really experienced players in their group that day, and he's been quality every time he played, but he's only had very small cameos. I would expect him to start on Saturday because Errol Bullitt said he was going to change things, so he's definitely one. El Ghazi is obviously, you know, a well-known and very skillful footballer. He's not fit enough to start at the moment because he didn't play for the whole season last year. He had like a legal battle, I think, with his former club.
Yeah.
You know, I'd expect him to be on the bench and maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then we really like played a lot of defensive players. A lot of defensive players like Callum Chambers, Will Fish. Jesper Darland at the back is really impressed. So hopefully he's fit because he had a bit of a knock. And Chris Willock has done all right in amongst, it's difficult for an attacking player when your team's playing badly and conceding a lot and you don't get much of the ball. He's kind of done all right in amongst like some bad performances. Clearly got some talent. It's just whether we can utilize him in the best way.
And are there any players from Derby's team that you're a little bit apprehensive about facing at the weekend, or are you feeling fairly confident with what we've got to offer?
Well, half of them are bloody ex-Cardiff players, isn't they? Ebou Adams and Mendes Lang, Nat Phillips now as well, Nelson at the back as well. So, no, look, I think the midfield battle is going to be really interesting because I quite like your midfield. You got that lad from Forest who's really good. Is it Forest or Palace? Palace, sorry.
Yeah, Palace.
Right. And obviously Ebou Adams will sit as well. And then we've got sort of Robertson, who's settling in, but it will be good. And maybe Ramsey plays and a couple of others. So it's going to be a big battle in there. And look, Mendes Lang, I did my preview earlier with Ed Dawes from BBC Derby. And like, he asked me if any of the ex-Cardiff players will get like a bit of a frosty reception. And I actually think they'll all get a really good reception, especially Mendes Lang, because he was really good for us. It was just he had some off the field issues, and then like I think it was kind of just what it was. But I don't think anyone, everyone was hoping that he was going to find the club and get things back on track. And he's definitely done that with you guys. And he's super dangerous when he's on form and when he's at it. He's a real dangerous player. I just hope he plays on the left and not the right, to be honest.
So it was interesting there, maybe a little bit of a segue, but Ebou Adams was quite the topic of debate over the summer in terms of you sent him on loan to us. He hadn't really been playing for you. He had obviously a massive injury when he first joined, kind of recovering from that injury, then came on loan to Derby in League One. What did your fans sort of make, or what did you see from the Cardiff side of the transfer saga this summer of trying to get it back over the line for him to return to Derby?
It's interesting, that one, because in January when he came to you guys on loan, I think most Cardiff fans were kind of like, yeah, he's not playing. He's never going to feature in the plans of the manager. So just, move him on, sort of thing. And then that day I got asked to go on TalkSport or BBC or something. And I was talking about him. And I think he's a really good, I'm very confident. And I said it on the day, he'll go and he'll do a really good job for you. And if you can put a couple of good creative players around him, he will do a fantastic job. And he's actually, I said at the time, he's better on the ball than people give him credit for. I think people kind of had him down as just a bit of a destroyer, but he's not that bad on the ball. And I think I quite like him, but sometimes it's finding the right club and the right fit. And maybe Cardiff just wasn't the place for him, but it seems like him and his family have all settled in Derby. So I was really confident that he was going to go back to you guys in the summer. I didn't think he was going anywhere else, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we're all quite grateful that the deal did go over the line, because I think he settled in, well, as you'd expect after the loan spell. So I think that'll be quite a big game for him almost to sort of prove himself against his former employers that he is capable of playing at championship level. I think going back to the fixture itself, obviously we're still quite early into the season, so it might be hard to tell, but do Cardiff approach away games slightly differently to their home games? I know some clubs do. Would you say there's any sort of tactical switch away from home?
They do. We do. Well, certainly last year we played much more on the transition away from home. We are fairly comfortable on the ball. We got some good, especially some of the players we brought in defensively. They're all pretty happy to have the ball. It's just sometimes we struggle to progress it. We haven't really had a forward who's really good, but we got some good passes. It's just in the final third we seem to struggle a little bit. But I think I would be surprised if, with all the pressure that's on the manager, if he suddenly sort of rips up the script and goes for something different. Even though I do think he should switch the system to 3 at the back, but that's another story. I think we'll kind of sit in, try and make ourselves difficult to break down, and then try and hit you in the transition when we win the ball back quickly. But again, it depends on who he selects, because if he goes with the 11 that have started the last 2 games, that doesn't work because there's no pace in the wide areas or in the forward area. So it's really easy to defend against, because you just drop in and we can't create anything. So, but if he plays with Ruben Colwell, Ollie Tanner, maybe Callum O'Dowda in the wide area, there's a lot more pace and creativity there. And I think that is where we could probably cause you a few issues if they play.
And speaking of sort of the areas to exploit, are there any areas in the Cardiff team that you think Derby could exploit? And if so, what are they?
So I jokingly said that I hope Mendes Lang plays on the left. It's difficult, right? Because the start of this season, we've played Callum O'Dowda at left back because Jamalu Collins has been injured and Callum O'Dowda is a winger. So defensively, he's not great. He's all right. He's all right, but he's not great. And then on the right-hand side, we've got Perry NG, who was in the Championship Team of the Year. I would argue over the last 2 seasons being one of the best right-backs in the Championship. But actually, if you ask Cardiff fans, the end of last year and the start of this season, it's been quite poor. I thought he was really good in the South Wales Derby second half. But apart from that, he's been quite poor. He's given the ball away a lot, doesn't really get forward, and defensively has been switching off. So if I was Derby, I would target the wide areas because we don't have. We got one sort of winger in the fullback area, and then one that's drastically out of form. So that's where I would be looking, because I think in the central areas we're quite strong. But yeah, width.
So we're sort of getting to the end of the opposition analysis now, but I think just before you do go, I was wondering your memories of Derby versus Cardiff. I know one that stands out, and I think a lot of Cardiff fans and Derby fans might know what I'm on about when I say it was snowing on that evening or on that day. Are there any games beside that match that stand out for you?
Trying to think now. Yeah, the snowing one always comes up, doesn't it? Because it's like Cardiff fans are not happy about that forever. And do you know, every time the fixture comes up, I always like get that, like, because I'll get asked to do previews or whatever, or like little interviews and stuff, and people, all my mates and all the fans are texting me saying, make sure you mention the snow. But you can't, like, you got to let it go at some point, surely. There was a game. Oh, when was it? I'm so bad with years. It was 2-0 to Derby. I think it was like 2015, and you won. But it was one of the most enjoyable games of football I've ever been to. It's like a weird one. It was at our place. It's gonna bug me now. But like, we had like a really, really poor side at the time. I'm pretty sure it would have been like Neil Warnock in charge, but it was when like we had like Simon Moore in goal and Lee Peltier and Craig Noon was like getting towards the end of his career. And if basically it was like a side of like, if Peter Whittingham didn't do anything, we were struggling. And you won 2-0. I think Scott Malone scored an own goal. But it was just such an enjoyable day for me. Like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you why. It was just one of those days where I think I had lots of friends and family and people at the game. So not a very exciting one, I'm afraid. But from a personal point of view, that was definitely it. There was a 4-3 one there in like 2018, 17, I think, which we won.
I've not done you any favors there, because I've asked you the question. I can't remember any myself now.
I think it was either 2017 or 18, and it was just after Christmas, and like it was 4-3 to us. Joe Rawls scored a penalty in like the 90th minute or something to win it. That was a wicked game. Darren Bent played for you at that point, so it's obviously going back a while. It was when you had Tom Ince as well.
Yeah.
Going back a while. Yeah, that would probably be that was a good one, because we actually won that game. So, you know, it's a better memory.
Yeah, so it's probably a little bit better than a 2-0 loss then.
Yeah.
I guess finally then we've got to try and grab a prediction from you, a scoreline prediction for the game this weekend.
Do you know what? It is difficult, right? Because it kind of depends on what team he picks. Sorry. Kitten. Like if he goes with some of the younger players and the players that the fans want to kind of get in the team, and the local media as well have kind of been calling for it, I'd be fairly confident that we'll go and get 3 points. But if he reverts to type, which when people are under pressure, which he is under a great deal of pressure, and they need results, I think they revert to what they know, and I think he will play at pretty much the same 11 that he has the last couple of games, even though he said he was going to change it. And that worries me, because if that's the case, I could see you winning quite comfortably. So if he picks one team, I'd say like 2-0 to you, and if he picks one team, I'd say like 3-1 to Cardiff. So you can edit whatever one you want after.
Well, thank you, Si, for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you on and getting some good insight into Cardiff. For anyone that's made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. Obviously, you can find us at Rams Talk on various social media accounts. If you could subscribe, that would be brilliant. Leave a comment, leave a like. Obviously, you can find Si over at Cardiff City World and various other places. But thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.